I'm Shiraz Durrani. I'm a Kenyan, forced out of Kenya by Moi. I'm in London now. Uh, and as a political introduction, I was a member of the December 12th movement and More Kenya and Umoja. But I'm in London now.
Great.
Thank you,
And today we're here with Editor House Facility to talk about your upcoming title, which is From Mama to Ruto Must Go. Um, just to start off the questions about your history as a writer, you've documented decades of Kenya's political and social struggles. What were the early experiences or the moments that sparked your passion for these issues?
Well, Kenya has been a kind of a neo-colony right from independence. And the conditions were always very, very difficult for working class people. And it's a kind of uh, you might say intellectual, some kind of. We always was a left wing and interested in supporting the struggle of the working class. And it, it, it was possible at one time to join a political organization, which is the only way we can address the issue of neocolonialism. So I joined December 12 movement and became active in it. The real thing was the oppression in the country was getting more and more severe, and people were organizing to address that, and I was one of them.
Mm, So, thank you so much for sharing that. Your book traces the journey from Mau Mau uprising to contemporary Kenyan politics. What inspired you to connect these two pivotal moments in Kenya's history?
I think very sometimes history is seen in bits and pieces, in isolated units. But if you look at the overall trends, there has been a consistent trend of resistance, even before independence, and of course after independence. The people have attacked the status quo inherited from colonialism. But Mama was aware of the danger posed by neocolonialism and the use of Kenyans themselves to undermine the resistance. That resistance from Mama was before independence and after independence. And the key highlights were uh, Kenya People's Union, which is the left wing of KANU, exposed that there was no chance of bringing about change within the party. So they formed KPU, Kenya People's Union, which was for socialism. That was suppressed. Pio Gama Pinto was assassinated. Others were forced into exile. And after that, the resistance went underground under December 12 movement and for Kenya. So what I'm trying to do is see that there's a trend from independence right up to now. And 2024 resistance by the young people and not so young people is not just an isolated incident. It is part of a larger picture. It's a part of a trend of resistance. So that's what the book is trying to catch up with.
You also mentioned that it was important for you to have the amount of illustrations that you do in your upcoming book. Can you tell us why it was important for you to have so many illustrations?
Yeah, well, in a country like Kenya, there is no history of resistance to mention really a few titles. People are kept ignorant of their own history, of their own resistance. And not only is there no books, but books is one aspect. Books is one aspect, but the other is the visual side is important. Because unless people see a picture, and particularly for people who are not literate in English or other languages, written words doesn't mean anything. Written words don't mean anything. So pictures and images are important. The other side of it is that because there is no freedom of expression in Kenya, the young people particularly have resorted to the social media and the use of cartoons, use of political statements made online. And because of this is a kind of a stream that keeps flowing. And unless you catch it at different times, that image, the image of resistance, just disappears. Nobody bothers to look at it again. And the state, of course, is not interested in documenting it. Part of the reason for this book was to make a visual uh, history available for people who may not have been part of it, or even if they were part of it, that part can often be forgotten. So to bring it alive again.
Could you walk us through some of the similarities of the censorship that you just mentioned and how that has changed through time, especially considering, as you've said, that young people are moving towards using social media and more visual media to perform their resistance in some way or shape or form? So, when we talk about censorship, what do you think was the most important thing uh, for you when you were writing this book to bridge that sort of parallel?
Well, I remember some of the earlier political work I was involved in, and one of them was a publication by Kenya called Kenya's resistance, record of resistance, and this was a record of strikes. And information for that book came from their political cell in Kenya, who used to send the material to me in Gujarati because there was a censorship and they used to open mail also. So we took, this was part of that team was my brother. So he would write to me as a brother, trying to show that it was just a family matter. But within that family matter, he used to send me lots of photos and document strikes, the peasant movement, and all that information came through in that way. It was not, even post was difficult. Telephone was difficult. Telephone was difficult because not only was it expensive, but it was also being monitored by the special branch. That in itself was difficult. It was difficult even for 5 people in Kenya to meet for a meeting. You cannot meet more than 4 people. Compared to that now, there is comparative freedom. People can meet, people do actually meet, organize, but that's on the surface. You can meet and talk about the weather, then there's no problem. If you meet and talk about resistance, talk about imperialism, then you are in trouble. So the earlier version of this book, I've again reproduced some of the illustrations in that edition. And some of the people who gave their names on social media to say I'm the one who did this particular illustration, many of them were arrested and I think disappeared. But that tradition has continued. People have not given up. Maybe they don't give their names as openly as they used to, but the stream of images and illustrations it kept coming. And very often now we get live videos of events like today there was former Chief Justice was arrested for protesting against taking over of more land by this government. So there is a change, but that's within reason. You have to keep the security aspect in mind.
Right.
But the book tries to document this, to pin it down so it doesn't disappear.
Right. Just to stem off of the same question, as a publisher and a librarian, how do you think media and the publishing landscape in Kenya influences the current narrative resistance and political change?
But it censorship that stops people from discussing religion and discussing political issues, not necessarily the resistance, even in discussing politics. Um, that's difficult. So that those rules apply to publishers, they apply to libraries. Now, this particular book, the first edition, which was not on sale, it was distributed free of charge, about 300 copies. That was published in Kenya. But as its impact became clear, publishers became reluctant to publish the second edition, this edition. We tried several ways of doing it, and it was clear that no publisher would publish it, partly because of the title of the book. They had not even seen the content, but the title talks about um, from Momo to Ruto Must Go. And the implication immediately in the minds of publishers as well as, I don't know, librarians was that we are advocating uh, uh, that Ruto must go. Well, I was personally saying Ruto must go, and many others were, but the book doesn't say that openly. The title doesn't say Ruto must go. The title is looking at a movement which is called Ruto must go. It's not taking sides in that sense. But anyway, whatever the reason, it was impossible to publish a book in Kenya, and I approached African Book Collective to see if they know anybody, any publisher in Africa or East Africa who may be able to publish this. Because it's not only in Kenya, the long arm of the Kenyan special branch goes all over East Africa. And imperialism is behind it anyway. But the advice I got was that EPH might be interested. So I approached them, and I was very happy, and I'm very glad they took this up because otherwise the book would not have been published. So congratulations to them.
Imperialism is such a universal, oppressive regime that a lot of countries across the world go through. So, when talking about the Gen Z protests in Kenya, from about the Ruto Must Go, do you see any influences from other countries and resistance in other countries that sort of feed into the whole Gen Z protest?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the young people in Kenya through the media, through social media, are very much in contact with other struggles like Palestine. There's a Palestine Kenya solidarity movement. There's a solidarity with Cuba, with Kurdish movements. So it's not an isolated thing. I think what social media has done, besides helping the resistance within the country, within Kenya, is it has brought together resistance movement from other parts of the country. And it's not just directly connecting, but information. What happens in Nicaragua, what happens in India is very much followed. What was happening in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, all those movements, all those, and mostly these are young people doing it. That news comes to Kenya. It encourages the local people also. And there is a direct support from such organizations outside Kenya to inside. So that was something that was not that obvious in the past. It is now more clear.
What would you say is missing in leadership today? What do you think accountability looks like in the current climate?
Well, as far as the government is concerned, there is no accountability. The president spends millions of pounds going around the world, supposedly to help Kenya. While Kenyans are starving, he's spending money traveling as if he is a permanent tourist. There is no leadership there, or there is a leadership of the wrong type. Among the resistance movements, the Gen Z had said that they are leaderless in the sense that in an organization less. This was partly to protect the leaders. Leaders get eliminated under imperialism. And in Kenya, also among the greatest loss that Kenya suffered was Pio Gama Pinto. It was a great loss. Kenya itself lost Karimi Dutu. Meaning that if people like them were still alive and active, the resistance would have been much more strong. So today's generation has learned that lesson. And they're calling themselves leaderless, organizationless, but how do hundreds of thousands of people, not only in one town but throughout the country, come together on the same day at the same time? Obviously, there is a leadership. Obviously, there is an organization. But for security, they have to keep underground. So while it's difficult to know, or you shouldn't even try to find out what that leadership is, very obviously is. But the important thing also is that leadership emerges as part of the struggle. And it's not one individual, I think we are looking for as a leader. It is a collective leadership. It is coming together under an ideology, under a movement, under an organization that is important. And I think that emerges as part of the resistance itself.
What is the role of information and archives in resistance that you think is the most important?
But I think it's important. The archiving is important. Information is important because if people knew the full extent of what happened under Mau, how Britain had 3 or 4 detention centers for women Mau activists, and how they were tortured, how they were raped, murdered. That brings a kind of tears of blood when you see the real fact. If those facts are not made available and they are hidden, then obviously people don't know what has happened. And that is what imperialism is trying to do. Take the example of trade union movement. The trade union movement was very active and it was part of the Mau movement. And it was organized primarily by Makhan Singh, Kaki and others. But it was so successful that after independence, trade union movements were suppressed. And whatever trade unions are there today have been bought out. So information about the trade union movement, Makhan Singh's archives in Nairobi, carries 20,000 items. And that's a fundamentally important thing. Fundamentally important. Makhan Singh's own books are important. But currently, the Okombosi Library has a project called the Kenya Resistance Archives. And they are archiving a lot of resistance material. Without that, there is no history. What Israel, the so-called country of Israel, does is eliminate streets, houses, like Afghanistan, so that memory of generation after generation will disappear. People can't say, oh, this is my house, I used to live here, because that has been flattened. And if there is no history, if there's no record, history becomes like that. And it's important to record it, it's important to do that. I'm glad the Kenyans are conscious of that and are doing it.
What do you envision for Kenya's political and social future, especially with your new title coming up?
I could not detain the editors, but I detained the books, that they meaning the ruling class, the government. And they are probably reading it now. I don't know how they're going to react. But there are brave people in Kenya who are still organizing launches. There are 3 launches being planned just this month. And what happens to the book, I don't know. But the resistance is there. Somebody asked me yesterday, how do I see the resistance in Kenya? Is it getting stronger or weaker or what? And I said, it is getting stronger. It is getting organized. It is getting ideologically clear. But I said it is not strong enough yet to face the armed might of the Confederate government, USA and Britain who have armies, and of course this country calling itself Israel. They are all present there. And they see Kenya as a stronghold, as a foothold, or Africa, not only East Africa. They are not likely to let the resistance go very lightly and organized. So it is going to be a very difficult situation, but there is a positive side to it as well. Look at what's happening in India. This government has been destroying the country, selling off resources, handing out money to their own, what I call Kandiyas, their own supporters. And then what about suddenly the chief, one of the, I don't know, chief justice or some magistrate made a comment about the working people or young people being cockroaches. And it has now become a national movement, Cockroaches Janata Party. We were hundreds, I don't know, maybe hundreds of thousands or even millions of young people have now got a reason for coming together. And they have really, they are challenging the government. So a little spark can light a prairie fire. And that is happening in India. I hope something like that can also happen in Kenya. And if it should work in India, it should encourage Kenya also because India has supported Kenya during Momo. And if it manages to liberate itself, well, we are all in the same path then.
Are there any lessons from the past you hope to be carried on forward for the future?
Yeah, of course. I think there are a number of things that are fundamental. The first thing is ideology. I think there is I don't know whether it's fear or lack of awareness that nobody talks about. People talk about what is wrong. Nobody, as far as I know, says that what they want. That the battle in Kenya is between socialism and capitalism. And this is what I wrote in one of my books, 2 parts ahead. So what is hidden, the elephant in the room, is capitalism. What is causing all the problems in Kenya, in other parts of the world as well, is the complete control of capitalism and imperialism. Now, APU came out openly and said, we want socialism. The underground movements came up and said they want socialism. But now, people are marching, they are demanding things. Where is the word socialism in all of that? So the lesson from the past, I would say, is be clear about the ideology. Where do you want to go? And when you talk of socialism, many so-called left people turn off. oh, we are not into socialism. But what are they for? If it's not socialism, it is capitalism. So admit that they are for capitalism. There is no sitting on the fence. The other thing is organization. And imperialism ensures, and the Kenya government, among others, ensures that there is no organization. It buys out leaders, it buys out organizations. So unless people organize, and one of the lessons from December 12th movement was that you cannot openly challenge a government which is ready to kill you. It will kill your leaders, it will kill everything you're building. So what they did was they organized underground. And they were very successful in what they did. They brought out their programs. They said what they were trying to do there and later for Kenya. So the lesson from that, and lesson from what from KPU is don't hide what you're trying to do. Be aware of security situation, but organization, um, ideology, and organization doesn't mean setting up a party. Okay, in India it may be okay to set up the cockroach party or whatever. In Kenya, while we need that, there needs to be a parallel underground movement. Because if you see, like in Palestine, in Iran, when they kill a leader, life doesn't come to a standstill. They're already prepared for a second and a third and a fourth level of leadership will take over. So while you have overground parties and leaders, you need to organize underground also. So I think these are three best things. And of course, be aware of the danger. You mentioned NGOs, and you need to be very careful about which NGO you select because most of them have been, I think most of them have been programmed or planted to replace the so-called progressive organization to repress them. So if you get advice and help from NGOs or even from so-called well-sounding foreigners, you are putting your organization and your leadership in danger. So security should be part of anything you do. Security and the other two things I mentioned.
Yeah. You've spent your entire life documenting resistance and struggles in Kenya. Is there a message you hope for? Uh, is there a message you would like to give for the young people in Kenya, especially your readers?
Yeah, I think it's important that there are two or three aspects. One is to be active, to be organized, to be active, to be ideologically clear. But that should not take up, that is not an exclusive thing. Being active involves a lot of other things. Being active historians. An activist is a librarian, is an archivist, is everything. Uh, they need, people need to be active in physical work, in mental work, and be prepared for the coming struggles. They're not going to be easy. There is unemployment in Kenya, very, very large number of people are unemployed. And nobody is going to come and give people food and say, here, do your revolution. It is a struggle. While you somehow manage to survive. But the thing is not to survive as an individual. Capitalism encourages individualism. Work together, support each other, and when supporting, create a community of your own. Don't depend on bourgeois or capitalist organizations to support you.
Do you have any last words that you would like to address your audience with?
Well, I would like to thank the people who contributed to this book. It is not easy, as I said in Kenya, to put your name down. If publishers are scared to publish this book, if libraries are scared to stock this book, uh, yes, people who took this courage, who took the courage to write uh, their articles, I think they deserve a particular congratulations. But also it shows that what they wrote isn't academic in the research academic kind of a way. They base their writings on their own experience, what they have seen, what they have been trying to do. So that's something that needs to be documented also. And I'm glad they have done it. That the lesson is don't be put off by whatever difficulties this book has. Continue writing and use the, I mean, these days, publishing is very easy. It doesn't require millions of pounds. There are technologies that can help. There are institutions that can help. Keep publishing, keep writing, and keep thinking and keep developing yourselves. I think learning and learning from lessons of the past and from other countries today is an important thing because that will encourage you. So I don't know. That's probably all I can say.
Thank you so much for this, and thank you so much for sitting for this interview. It was really lovely to speak to you, and I hope everyone loves the book as well. And I'm sure it's gonna be great. And I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.